Rolex versus NOMOS. What is he doing? Burn down the comment section immediately. Relax, everyone. Hear me out here. If you are on the hunt for that perfect only watch, that impossible to achieve one watch collection, then you are bound to find both of these watches on your path to enlightenment. To make the cut as that only watch, it should be able to go anywhere and do anything. It should have a timeless design, it should have that je ne sais quoi that keeps things interesting over time. It should be able to handle all sorts of conditions. It should be an overall high-quality watch, which doesn't necessarily mean expensive. And last but not least, it should preferably come from a company that will be around for the next couple of decades at least, so you're sure you can count on good after-sales service, not unimportant. Now, if today you are looking for that perfect only watch, the one that kinda does it all, well, then you should probably be having a look at both of these watches among a bunch of other watches in perhaps completely different price categories. Both of these, however, feature time-only display, a robust design and an in-house caliber. Both have great water resistance, and on their bracelets there isn't really a need to ever take either of these watches off. A key difference between both is that the NOMOS is, well, less than half the price of the Rolex. But in my opinion, it's certainly not half the watch when compared to the Rolex. In this video we'll go over the essential differences and, more important perhaps, the similarities between both watches, and along the way highlight what makes them such ideal only watches in my book. Now, this is not meant to be a head-to-head type of comparison. I think in that case a comparison against one of the 36mm Oyster Perpetuals would perhaps be slightly more appropriate. But that's not really the point of the video. And if you want to know all about a 36mm OP, just have a look at the previous video on the channel. I'll drop the link in the description. Let me begin perhaps by saying that both these watches are excellent timepieces. Now, the current Explorer is of course 36mm, and the one we are looking at is the now discontinued and, well, my favorite 214270, which was slightly larger at the time. So the Club Sport here is available in a lovely 37mm, so size-wise both the current Explorer and the current Club Sport are very similar. The bezels on both watches are polished, but they are quite different. So the Explorer has a nice angular design, whereas the Club has a more rounded type of finishing, again a bit closer to what you would find on the Oyster Perpetuals. The Explorer feels more tool-like than the Club. The NOMOS case is essentially all polished, whereas the Explorer features both polished and brushed surfaces. This adds again to that utilitarian look of the Explorer. The case back then is quite different between both, of course. The Rolex back is plain and closed, as they tend to be, whereas the NOMOS offers a nice look at that gorgeous in-house movement. I like see-through case backs, and I cannot lie. Now, the crown, other than being visually quite different, is screwed down on the Rolex and not so on the NOMOS. This is quite fascinating, as the NOMOS actually features double the water resistance, 200 meters, when compared against the Explorer, 100 meters. No screw-down crown, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I don't know actually. They feature automatic movement, so a screw-down crown seems like a good option here. If they would have manual movements, then I would certainly not want a screw-down crown. But, well, anyway, what's your opinion on that topic? Let me know in the description. I'm actually interested to hear your thoughts. Now, when looking at the dial then, at first glance and from a distance, ignoring the sub-dial on the NOMOS, of course, they might appear quite close, ignoring the obvious color difference here and that sunburst effect. But once you get closer, While both dials are nice indeed, the Rolex one is easily the nicer one here. So the applied indices in white gold nonetheless, and the overall finishing is just in another league. Not surprising, of course, given the substantial price difference. In the dark as well, while both have nice lume, as you would want on your one and only watch of course, the Rolex lume wins that battle hands down. It charges faster and holds the charge longer as well. Now with that said, both dials are very nicely done and the NOMOS dial holds up surprisingly well, even up close despite the quite dramatic price difference. But to be clear, yes, there is an obvious better dial here between these two. Now then, talking about the movement. Both these movements are in-house movements. That in itself is pretty amazing. Both are automatic and both are very impressive. The Rolex movement is built like a tank at this point, it's been refined over all these years, and then the NOMOS movement is no joke either of course, and a really strong point of NOMOS in general. They make their movements in-house. The club's movement has a 43-hour power reserve as opposed to 70 hours or so on the Explorer. Now the lack of bigger power reserve, however, shouldn't really be a deal breaker if this would be your only watch, as you'd have it wound up every day essentially, since it's an automatic winding movement after all. And it is oh so pretty. And long term it is nice that you can keep admiring it on a NOMOS, which of course you cannot do on the Rolex. Now moving to the bracelet and the clasp. Now I've said this before, but it's very hard to beat the Rolex bracelets. The modern ones are just so well made. There are watches twice the price of the Explorer that have bracelets that absolutely pale in comparison. Now on the Rolex, the bracelet sits flush against the case and the lugs. There is no movement whatsoever. The bracelet on the NOMOS feels, well, substantially less premium. Visually, you can't really tell, but once you have this in your hands, side by side, the difference is clear as day. This doesn't mean the NOMOS bracelet is bad, it's just that the Rolex one is that good. The clasp as well, folding Oyster lock safety clasp with EasyLink 5mm comfort extension. On the Rolex, it's just rock solid. The NOMOS clasp is far more minimalistic and, well, very much NOMOS in its design. The clasp on the NOMOS is fully polished, and after having this for a while, I think a satin brushed clasp would perhaps have been a bit more fun long term, as the polished clasp does for sure pick up scratches very easily, and it sure is a fingerprint magnet. Now in contrast there, of course, the Rolex clasp is fully brushed and it has held up very well over time. All in all, these are what I consider to be excellent one-watch collections and exceptional go-anywhere, do-anything watches. Yes, we could have easily swapped the Explorer in this video for an Oyster Perpetual, for example, but then where is the fun in that? Take any of these watches and you're pretty much set. From the beach to the boardroom to the workshop, you're all set here. They each have their own little details that keep them interesting over time, and both brands are rock-solid independent brands, so you can count on these being around for a very, very long time. In addition, and perhaps most important, I think this side-by-side and up-close comparison between arguably, the king of watches against this relatively small German independent manufacturer shows just how exceptional the work is that comes out of Glashütte from the NOMOS manufacturer. If you're looking for a solid one watch that does it all, certainly make sure to have a look at the NOMOS catalog and don't just stick to what everyone else is doing. Now anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy this content, please do help out the channel by subscribing or liking the video. Thank you very much.